Order.
Mr. Commissioner, hey, how you doing? Good or something?
Good. All right, good evening. Thanks, Tracy Schultz, I'm Chair of the Chesapeake Bay Bridge Reconstruction Advisory Group. Vote this meeting of the advisory group and hereby calling a meeting of order at 6 p.m. We hold this meeting in person at the MDTA building, new building at the Bay Bridge. And you should note that the meeting will be available on the BRAG webpage after the meeting for attendees to view and download. Attendees should also note that the recording will include the audio and video from this evening's meeting. Presentations will be available to download from the BRAG webpage. I would ask that anyone in the room with us this evening please refrain from speaking unless you are presented or answering questions so that background noise is minimized for those being removed. If members of the public pre-registered comment on specific agenda items, I'll provide you with an opportunity to comment after the agenda items presented. We appreciate everyone's patience and ask that you hold any comments until the designated time. We ask you please introduce yourself by giving us your name and community you represent before moving on with your question or comment. Members of the public joining us via Microsoft Teams will be able to view the meeting only. For security reasons, the chat function of Microsoft Teams is not enabled for MDOT personnel. Any posts entered in the chat window are not visible to staff and will not be responded to. As a reminder, this meeting is being recorded in its entirety. For the record, all members are present except for
Nick Diotis,
Wilson,
Commissioner Wilson, Kurt Regal, and Jack Broderick.
and Nick Diotis.
Yeah.
Nick Beard is out. He's not gonna make it. He's only one sentence. Okay, you all right with that?
Mm-hmm.
Our first agenda item is to ask for motion to approve meetings from July meeting. Anybody have any issues with them? If they did, they should have responded back some political corrections on them. All right, they ask for motion for approved minutes, July meeting.
Motion to approve, John.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Next is the requirement of the House Bill 56, which is a report on the group's activities at the last meeting, any recommendations they have based on the activity. As for BRAG's duties, they provide the MDTA with an independent citizen informed perspective of the authority's operations of Bay Bridge, assess potential concerns about activity of Bay Bridge, educate the public about activities related to the Bay Bridge, and work with the MDTA and provide pertinent input related to traffic and customer service issues. Any members would like to share their individual educational activities and interactions with their community since the last meeting. Thanks to all of the guests. I attended the Tier 2 study, it was held at the Canal American Legion. Very well set up, whoever did that, listen to everybody.
Yep.
Thank you. I think you had a pretty decent turnout. Like a lot of community people were there. A lot of people from the organizations that are working with study were there also. Hopefully got a lot of good feedback.
We'll report on that today.
Very good. Or we have anything? Anybody else, public comments from the committee? Next agenda item. Next or agenda item is the current projects from MDTA. Chief Engineer Tim Hartness, or everyone. That's great, Tim. Everyone, you want to go first?
Last time. Sure. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, I think they're the next one. Right. Evening, Mr. Chair and members of BRAG. My name is Jim Harkness. I'm the Chief Engineer for Maryland Transportation Authority, and I'll walk you through our list of the Bay Bridge capital projects that is shown on the screen there for you. So we'll start first with EV 2757R, which is the 5 kV feeder replacement. And that project is well on its way to completion. We've got 90% complete on there. We expect to wrap it up in the next couple of months here. So some updates on what we've been working on is that we've had the South Bridge cable completely replaced. The North Bridge cable has now been completely installed. We're looking at completing some punch list items, cleaning some things up, We're working on final commissioning and switchover, and we expect that to happen in November. And they are also demolishing the old 5 kV cable in the areas that they can do that. So that's what they're working on.
Is that just for the bridge and ancillary buildings, that all that power? Is that, or is that hooked to the grid on both sides? And
So, right, so it's been fed on both sides for quite some time. So we've got the BBB feed, we've got the Delmarva feed, and it used to be such that we had transfer switches, you could switch the power in the event that we had a feeder trip or something like that. So there've been a number of times in the past years where we've lost power on a bridge, which means we lose all of our signals, and we've had to go along the 4 miles of the bridge trying to figure out where did we lose this feeder, and we get it, splice it, fix it. So we've done a couple of years back, we replaced the feeder mostly on the Work Bridge, the westbound bridge. This project replaced all of the eastbound bridge. But then we did a kind of an innovative approach to it. We established a system where it's networked now. So it will provide messages to our maintenance forces if a section goes out, but we've also then sectioned up this bridge now, so we can backfeed it, and we would only lose a portion that was affected. So if something faulted out, we'd be able to backfeed, and even if we lose Delmarva or BGE, we can still backfeed all the bridge completely. And so that's improvements to that, the remote notification, the automatic transfer switches, the ability to log in remotely. So if the maintenance technician is not on site, they can still log in and find out what's going on. So this project was pretty innovative, and it was something exciting. Most people will never know it happened, but if we lose something, we'll know it happened, because we won't have to do as much work as we had to do before. We also don't risk losing contraflow because we faulted something out. We can't put the right thing to control, especially enforcement, because some of it is feeding into the new systems. So that was.
I had somebody ask me if it was, all those new cables were feeding solar energy from one side to the other side of the grid, you know what I mean? And I said, no, I think this is strictly just for the bridges.
That's right.
How come you don't just have a big emergency generator thing?
Well, that would be a very, very big generator. We just do the two side, we try to backfeed it.
No, I understand.
Because, in the risk assessment, we're not going to lose both feeds. And so we felt like if we supply energy from these two companies, we're not going to lose that. And so we just made it so that we can feed, both sides of a bridge up to a point where we would, have a section.
So we go from gantry to gantry, basically.
Not quite, but because we don't have that many, we didn't section it up that much. I think we have 5 segments all across that bridge.
On each side,
We
5.
would lose a couple of gantries, but it wouldn't prevent us from being able to.
Yeah, and then if you think about the risk calculation, right, we deal with risk management all the time with a lot of things at MDTA. We have decades of history of knowing the reliability of the system. So the outages that we've had in the past have never been from losing both power from BG&E and Delmarva at the exact same time. So in the risk calculation, you start to, like Jim's point about a giant generator, where do you put that? Then all of the maintenance that goes into it, so that when you actually could have that random event 10 years from now, so that's.
Yeah.
I'm an investor in the generator company, so I just got it.
Well, I think we felt like if we lost both of those feeds, that probably two-way traffic or lane use signal on the Bay Bridge is going to be a priority for everybody in that area. Yeah. There's going to be something catastrophic. So.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure. Okay, our next project, BB 2819, that's the westbound deck rehabilitation. So we have a completion date in November of this year, and we're most of the way through this project. The team has installed 4 additional gantries And that's the new sort of curved gantry that you'll see on the westbound bridge. All the lane use controls and the cameras that may be attached to those, any signs that they were all placed, the cabinets and the platforms to access those were all part of the replacement. We have 3 gantries remaining to replace. This project also does line striping on the westbound bridge. So all that will wrap up the next month. Our third project, BB 3008, that is the Bay Bridge automated lane closure system. That's the project that's on the eastern shore. So we've been working through field acceptance testing of the devices. So they're essentially all 100% complete on field acceptance. That's the lane use control signals, the gates, as well as the illuminated pavement markings. So they're all essentially 100% field accepted. So now we're moving into working on getting the full power cut over to them from this 5 kV system and feeding that all of those with permanent power, which is working on final grading, but then importantly, working on integrating all those devices that communicate remotely into our traffic management system. So the existing system on the bridge functions, and we're getting those new devices into that existing system. So we're working on testing the remote communications of all those, the ability to they function properly, and that was all something. Again, it's hundreds of devices, so it's taking a bit of time to get all that up.
Will those devices be able to be controlled remotely, as in not only here, but like you got the command center at near the airport? I mean, will the gates be able to control from more than one location in case something does happen?
So it's going to be all controlled from our operations center. That we did a presentation on it.
Yeah.
Here, believe.
AOC South is located here below us in the police administration. Open 24 hours, 7 days a week. But Joey, in terms of backing up AOCs, if there was ever a catastrophic thing, we do have the ability to back up AOCs. So the systems here, there's some of them like a gate system that will be pretty proprietary to this location. I think the backup would be in the event of a failure that we manually do it with maintenance operations and personnel and equipment versus more AOC central. Just again, systems, there may be an opportunity, but there's very specific systems that this operations center manages specifically for the Bay Bridge and West Bridge.
If I may also too, we do have a backup system not only in place for our AOC South at our administration building across the street, as well as our shelter on the eastern shore. So we've got contingency plans in the event AOC does go down. We've got backup centers to be able to take what we call babies, which is our brains, and operate from this.
I just talked, you talking about power, so if you lose power here, I imagine it's fed from both locations also.
So in that case, if we had absolutely no power here, we would take that baby to AOC Central, which would be the end goal, and then operate it from there.
And while we don't have a generator for the bridge, we have a generator for supply for the campus.
Yes.
Oh, yeah. So completion date on that one, again, fall this year. BB 3014, the next project that's Canyon project on the western shore, so that we also addressed the whole plaza under this project. So all that, they've been working on getting their electrical slicing into the 5-volt system. This side as well, they've been going through the field acceptance testing, and we have one one guarantee level to test out, and then we'll be 100% field tested on that one. Well, same deal for this side, having to get that permanent power, and then get, check all the integration, get all the devices stood up, as tested in our system as a whole. So we'll be working on that as well as then, redoing the old, sign, structure and things like that, right? Again, all of that coming together at the same time, because we tested a whole system on both sides and the bridge. So we'll be working with that, over the course of the next, month or so. Next project on here is BB 3013. This is our on-call structural repair and miscellaneous modifications. So this is, just our work order based contract that we're able to address the immediate needs, findings from our inspection program. So we currently have 30 tasks assigned to the project and 5 additional tasks that are pending assignments and going through design reviews. We have completed 12 task orders under this project so far to date. That's all I have for that one.
Jim, on this, just as a follow-up to Pat's email about the concrete, you would confirm that one of our on-call contracts is doing that concrete repair that you would send us. So that this is the exact kind of contract that does that work.
And that is the contract. So then we'll move on to our project, BB 3012. This is the US 50Q detection system. So again, this is a project that we're coordinating with SHA and the University of Maryland CAT Lab to look at identifying and monitoring queuing happens on both sides of our bridge. We have secured all the permits for this project, environmental permits, storage trust. That will allow us to go through with the full construction of the detection sites that we have to do. So we expect we would have those completed by, of course, the summer of next year. We do have a couple of sites installed and up and running that we could do without all the full permitting. So we have some data going to the university, and they're using that data to develop this system that will monitor these queues and help predict these queues for us. So they have a couple of phases, so they were able to deliver their first phase of the software to us, and we're getting in and looking at that. And that's using some data that's already publicly available, as well as the limited sites we were able to put in. So we're testing that. Phase 2 is sort of that prediction of traffic and the ability to sort of try to look at historically what has happened and what does that mean for what we think that means for what will be there in the next hour or so. That we expect to be delivered in December of this year, and we'll be reviewing that piece of it. And finally, the final phase will be delivered after we are able to deliver all of the sites together. We'll put it all together. That's all for it. Deliver back to the whole system. So I think we have spring of next year, we should be able to get that all tied up and in operation service. Okay. And then our final 2 projects that we have are in the procurement phase. That is EV 2726, which is the deck rehabilitation for eastbound. It's phase 1 of that project. We are, that was the CMAR project, so we had the pre-construction services with the contractor on board. We were working through design with them. We progressed to 100% design. We've been working with them to secure a guaranteed maximum price for the work. So we have that for a package ready to go, and we're taking that to our board this month. So that should be, hopefully, will be awarded this month to the contractor, and they will be able to start work. Again, I think we've talked about it, but there's some stormwater management, there's moving utilities out of the way on the existing bridge, so things that aren't, very visible at all. And then major work, which is the actual deck panel work, would be after the summer travels next year. So we'll get underway. We'd be underway at this time. The panel, the deck panel, which is right. And the final one is BB 3004, which is the new project management office and things for the storage building. So again, also in procurement, it's with our procurement folks, and we expect it to advertise. I have in there 9. I think it's a 4-week delay, so it's actually advertising before the end of this month. All I have. Questions?
How many contractors do you have on your bid list for repair and building and deck redecking? And then second question, is there a number of contractors who are most prevalent in winning these bids, or is it very random?
So we have like a bid list.
Contractors who are authorized to submit a bid on your solicitations.
As long as they're, generally, as long as they're authorized to do work in the state of Maryland, they can propose, or submit it.
But do you have like a list of those who are trying to and have done most of the work?
We'll have, we'll see, kind of the common contractors to us. But, we do receive interest from, a variety of contractors. So as long as they meet our qualifications, or depending on what work we're doing, we'd be eligible to.
Yeah, if I could expand too, so in the state of Maryland, all government contracts are required to be advertised on eMaryland Marketplace Advantage. So this is an open system so that we don't provide any kind of preferential treatment towards industry. And so as Jim mentioned, each contract's different. We'll establish minimum qualifications. Like, so for example, the westbound, when we did the supplemental cable project, that's going to have a different criteria on minimum qualifications than, say, a concrete repair. And so there's not like a preferred list. We're open procurement, but they have to demonstrate to us that they meet our minimum qualifications.
Understand, I came from the industry. I just wondered, was there a list not of preferred, but of those who are strong in this industry usually? So it's all green.
Yeah, it's like he said, it's open procurement.
No, I know it's open, it's just,
So,
do we have a strong contractor or a couple of them?
no, so as part, when we have received bids, and if a bidder is an apparent low bidder, we will look into them and try to get references if we are not familiar with them. If we're familiar with them, then we vouch for them. Obviously, because we'll have a history of documenting how they perform for us. If it's unfamiliar to us, we'll go through a process of checking references and calling other agencies. If they haven't worked for us, or done work for state highways, we can reach out to them or across state lines. So that's generally how we do it, but there's no list per se.
And for perspective, the list that we're showing on the screen of projects, every project has a different contractor except for one. The two 2819 and 3014 have the same vendor. All of the rest of them are different. So just to show you that there's a strong industry in Maryland for contracting, and we don't get the same personnel.
But they're all government contractors.
No, it's
No.
we're not permitted to do.
I know, if they work that way now, different.
Thank you very much. Okay.
But there, let me just add, because I think, I don't want you to leave thinking that we're not supporting Maryland businesses. We do have,
You gotta go low bid, and I get that, they gotta be qualified.
there are many of these that are Maryland contractors, and nearly every one of our contract has minority business goals and veteran business goals that help to support local small businesses and minority contracting. So we do support Maryland businesses with the ventures on the Bay Bridge, but we are an open procurement state.
Thank you, Jim. Any further tips?
All right, my plan is just to update you on some pending construction projects and then existing. So start off with Queen Anne's County. So we're gonna be resurfacing the 2 ramps near the Bay Bridge. Eastbound US 50 to southbound Maryland 8. I think Brad, you brought that up before, as well as the Excel merge lane on from 552. Okay, onto US 50. So we're gonna be paving those this fall. And we met with night work, and we're going to be coordinating with our MDTA partners to make sure we don't screw anything up with that. But that's just kind of, I knew you brought that up. At least one of those I know you brought up before. I want to make sure I kind of highlighted that. In Anne Arundel County, you obviously probably talked to Barbara about that before. We're working on the westbound part right now, between Oceanic and Maryland 450. We're going to plan on wrapping that up before end of this month, assuming it ever stops raining. It's been raining for about 6 straight days for us. We're also working on southbound Maryland 2 from Cypress Creek to US 50 there in Spurn Park. Also a similar completion time of this fall. And then just kind of highlight we'll be doing eastbound 50 tentatively scheduled for next fall. So you saw us take westbound, we'll be doing eastbound next fall. And then Tracy, Opticon on Route 8. Get the notice to proceed out next month on that. So I'll be up to speed on what we're doing with that as well. And then I normally give you, it's a stack guy, I'll give you some updates on just our incident and disabled motorists. It's very much in line with what we've been doing. So we're not seeing a significant increase or decrease in our number of incidents, but if you just look at our Eastern Shore traffic operations, from January 1st to all the way through September 30th, we've had over 819 motor assists and just over 1,400 incident responses during that time. So.
Fire truck line, section 42.
Right, the first exit across the bridge, right?
And then there for 6 hours on that. For these.
I saw an update, at least because unfortunately I'm still up around 1 or 2. We're still working on it. That's just the quick updates for here. Any questions?
Any questions?
I just have a comment. All through the years, I've always wanted to know the name of the person who was responsible for filling up the potholes. But I also wanted to know the name of the person to thank for filling up the potholes and keeping our roads so perfect. And I think it's been, so thank you so much, now that I'm in
I thought you were going to do the video with Jim Ford because he's been doing he's got news. It was in the camera.
While you're up to 1,001.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure.
That's on the patch funnel. All right. Thank you very much for your reports. The next agenda item is update on the Bay Cross study from Melissa Williams, MDTA Director, Business Planning and Program Development, and Heather Lowe, MDTA Project Manager, Business Planning and Program Development. Usually you want to.
I'm gonna go solo tonight.
All right.
So it's just me.
I'll control
Don't mind me. I want to be able to see the slides. Thank you for inviting me to speak with you today. Just wanted to do a quick presentation to review a little bit from the public meetings that we've had earlier. In early September. Looking around the room, I think most of you were there. At least at an in-person meeting, if not online as well. So The slides that I'm going to show you are all from the meeting. Just going to give you a little quick overview. So, as all of you know, on June 10th, the governor announced that we were moving forward with tier 2. That was a very exciting day. So between June 10th and September 7th, we did a little bit. We organized project teams, pulled our teams together, got everyone working, developed all of the materials, prepared for and held 3 public meetings. That might not seem like a lot to you guys, but wow, it was a whirlwind. So we were really excited to be able to kick off the project the right way. We kicked off the project by going out to the public, sharing what the results were from tier 1. We saying we're starting tier 2. The governor announced it. We want to hear from you. We're not looking at the whole bay anymore. We're looking at corridor 7. We want to hear from you. And the team was very happy with the outcome from the meetings. On September 7th, we held our virtual meeting. So the virtual meeting, we had a presentation, which is the same exact presentation that we played at the in-person meetings. And then we answered questions. So the questions came in via chat. We had 103 questions come in. And in 2 hours, Heather and I were able to respond to 81 of the 103 questions. We talked really fast. So there were a lot of consistent themes, but we wanted to ensure that we were thorough in our answers. So I do apologize if some of the answers seemed repetitive, but folks weren't necessarily staying online for the full 2 hours. A lot of folks were bumping on and off, so we had about 20-30 minutes was the average length of stay. But we had over 350 attendees for that virtual meeting. So we were really happy with that turnout. At the in-house meetings, we had one on September 8th at the Kent Island American Legion Post 278, and September 13th was Broadneck High School. We had about 225 people show up for those meetings combined. So the attendance was a little bit lower, but didn't feel like it. The meetings were really crowded, were really well attended. So we were very happy. As I said, we were really there just to hear what folks had to say. And some people were kind of surprised by that we weren't coming to show them what we were doing. We were coming to ask them what they wanted us to do. So it's kind of refreshing. I don't know what number you're on.
That's the second one.
Okay, thank you. So the tier 1 FEIS ROD, the finding of final environmental impact statement, record of decision. As you all know, selected corridor 7. During tier 1, we looked at the entire bay. We looked at 14 different corridors, different crossing locations. Tier 1, we chose corridor 7, which is exactly where we are right now, from Seven River Bridge over the 5301 split, and looking at about a 2-mile wide swath for a new crossing location. As we move into tier 2 and we focus on corridor 7, we will still be looking at no build. What does no build mean? No build means Jim's going to keep doing the kind of projects that he's talking to you folks about, but we won't be building new bridges. Okay, no new bridges, no new tunnels. One of the things that I felt was very important to point out to folks was no build did not necessarily mean progress. Keeping in mind the amount of maintenance and the amount of repairs that need to occur on these 2 bridges, moving forward, let's just say 2040, we might not necessarily have all 5 lanes of capacity open. We might have lanes closed for maintenance, for upgrades, for patching those potholes, things like that. So there's do nothing does not mean get better. Do nothing means maintenance and trying to keep the structures in good state of repair. We will also be looking at different alternatives within that 2-mile corridor, the 2-mile swath, and we will be looking at modal and operational alternatives. So that does include looking at things like transit, buses, things like that. We did look at transit options, bus options, standalone, and standalone, they didn't solve the problems that we have here. In tier 2, we will be looking at those as components of additional alternatives. So it would be a part, almost like an option to an alternative. Slide 4, please. NEPA requires as all of you know, why we're doing NEPA, the National Environmental Policy Act requires if federal funds or federal approvals are needed, that we go through this process. It is a 4 to 5 year process for tier 2. A lot of folks say that sounds like a long time, but I promise you there is an awful lot of work to do on a 22-mile long corridor. We are not, it has not been determined how improvements would be funded. Therefore, there may be federal funding involved, and there will definitely be federal approvals involved. So that is why we're doing this process. Okay, next slide, please. This is just a fun slide. I think it's a fun slide. We're showing that in 1952, when the first bridge opened up, we were at 1.1 million vehicle crossings per year. And now, well, at 2021, we're looking at 26.6 million crossings per year. So I think it's just a fun slide to see things have changed an awful lot since that first bridge was built. So we really just wanted to focus on the fact that things have changed an awful lot. Next slide, please. I don't really like this slide. I'm going to tell you why. This is looking at traffic numbers that we have in 2017 from the Tier 1 study. No surprises here. We're looking at 2017 peak weekday evenings. I'm sorry, summer peak queues, 4 miles in the eastbound direction, 2.5 miles in the westbound direction. These things are familiar to you all. Looking at 2040, we'd be looking at something like 11.1 miles going eastbound and 13.2 miles going westbound queues. I don't want to debate the numbers. We've had folks out all summer collecting new data, and we've got folks out there right now. Jody said you saw them just out today or yesterday, saw them. Yeah, they've been out, they have been working like crazy, collecting all new data. 2017 is too old. We're getting all new data. So once we have that new data, which will be culminating this fall, come the new year, we will be putting together a new model, a new model. I am not certain yet what the year will be on that model, but it will either be 2040 or 2045. So stay tuned on that. As the model is developed and as we have more recent tracking numbers, you're going to be seeing these things going on again. Next slide, please. This is just a bar graph. I thought it was important to show. A lot of folks are asking COVID. What happened with COVID? Where are we? What's going on? Basically, what we're seeing is that numbers are coming down. In fact, some of our summer weekends, we actually have higher numbers than we anticipated than pre-COVID. Richard, you said you were, I remember you just speaking the other day saying that you were so surprised that the traffic has come back gangbuster. We'll be back to regular traffic quite soon. Where are we? Where are we going? So we finished the Tier 1 study in April of this past year. Tier 2 study, the governor announced in June. We were right there at number 3, holding our meetings. Well, we're starting to coordinate with the agencies, holding meetings with the public. As we move forward, again, it's going to be about a 4 to 5 year process. We are working on developing the purpose and need, getting that new traffic, doing environmental studies. If you'll remember in Tier 1, we talked about desktop studies, which meant we were using computers and using readily available data. As we move forward into Tier 2, okay, because we will have this 22-mile corridor, we will be boots on the ground doing a lot more detailed in-depth environmental analysis. Okay. What are you guys doing to me? Go back.
Don't know.
So then in the fall of so around this time next year, we'll be coming back out to the public and showing some of the alternatives that we've come up with. Keep in mind, we're not developing alternatives until we get that traffic, get it put into a model, run the models, and let the models show us what we would be doing. Okay, we'll be coming back out next fall. And then we hope to be coming out with a draft EIS, environmental impact statement, in fall of 2025. At that time, there would be public hearings, which is a little bit different than public meetings, but again, opportunities for the public to review the work that we're doing and provide input and comments as well. And the fall of 2026 is when we're looking for a final environmental impact statement, record of decision with a selected alternative. It seems like a long time, but I tell you folks, it's going to go by very, very fast. When we get to that point, there are a couple important things. We will have a location. We will know exactly where New Crossing would be. We will know if it's going to be a bridge, tunnel, bridge, tunnel. In addition, perhaps the most important thing is we will have a funding strategy. It is required by the Federal Highway Administration that we develop a funding strategy of how can we possibly afford a, let's just say, many billion-dollar project. So that's really exciting because that tees us off, has us ready and waiting for what can come next, which of course, right-of-way acquisition, design, and hopefully construction. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys because I know there are going to be questions. So yes.
You know, at the open meeting, they were over at from American Legion, was quite informative. The kind of consultants and subject matter experts you had at the various locations, and I have to say they were doing more listening than talking. How will they interact back out with the community? For example, on heritage impact, cultural impact, environmental impact, how will that interface take place over this next year?
Yeah. So one of the things we've been doing, kind of pulling our comments together and forming, let's say, themes that we've been hearing. And we are working, Melissa is working with us on developing our public involvement strategies and the different ways that we will be reaching out to the communities and reaching out to folks with different interests. Keeping in mind, 22 miles, we've got a lot of different types of communities and a lot of different interests. One of the things that I observed in speaking with folks at both of the in-house meetings was that folks in Queen Anne's and folks in Anne Arundel saw things a little bit different and had different priorities. It seems like I've heard a lot, and please forgive me, don't anyone do anything happy, but a lot of folks I talked to from Anne Arundel were saying, if we have to avoid 50 on the weekends, we'll do that, but we've got to be able to get around our community. And they really stressed that their key concern was getting around their communities. People say, we don't use 50, we don't need there, we just want to be able to get home and get to where we need to go. We didn't hear that as much on the other side. What we heard on the other side was a lot of people really worried about emergency services and access to emergency services. I'm not saying both sides don't have similar concerns, but it was just very interesting to me to hear that those were the predominant concerns that we were hearing.
But let me comment too, you look at that so-called 2 mile wide swath across Kent Island. That's the guts of Kent Island.
Yeah, so we said 2 miles walk.
Yeah, I know.
I'm not looking at Kent Island, I will go on the record saying that. When we looked at the whole bay, we were looking at areas where there are no crossings, and we were looking at connecting interstate to interstate somewhere around here. So that's where we picked the 2 mile. At this location, we're looking at, I'd say this location is more of a north of the bridge, in between the bridges, south of the bridge. Kind of areas that we would be looking at. Yes, there may be some shifting, but you got to keep in mind 5301 is right there on both sides. So it's not as much of a 2 mile. Please don't anyone on Kent Island think we're just going to decimate, because that's not the goal at all. The goal is to be able to connect the highways on both sides, and that's where the 2 miles.
That's what I tried to tell folks.
Yeah.
But I tell you, that's the biggest pushback. It's the greatest concern.
Yeah, that was
Sooner
really
we
to help
can
us look
address
at
that.
14.
Yeah.
So look at 14, because
Yeah.
I mean, like, look at Baltimore. Yeah, the Baltimore to Kent. There's nothing there.
Yeah.
So we were just trying to figure out, well, somewhere in that area.
Can you confirm, Melissa, when you talk about the models, we've had in past meetings, kind of conversations about traffic modeling. And where this is a federally required process. I think when we're talking about models, we are talking about models that are required, that are statewide models, that are things that again, like we talked about, are developed based on local input on projected growth. So they're not, we're gonna be feeding into a model, but
Yes.
it's not our model.
That's correct. National Environmental Policy Act requires that if there is an approved MPO, Metropolitan Planning Organization traffic model, you must use it. We have multiple different MPOs at work here. There's actually a statewide model that has been developed and accepted by the MPOs. That is the model we'll be using. Those models are populated with the land use and development patterns that the local provide to the MPOs. So this is not us making anything up. This is populating with traffic to make sure we kind of do a check to make sure that our numbers are matching and making sense. And then that allows us to project into the future based on a true today's base. This is what. And we will be coming back to talk about traffic, as I said, that was 2017. So I kind of want to move beyond it, but I did want to at least show. The reason we put the 2017 numbers out there was just to show folks, this is what we saw in tier one, realizing it's a couple of years later, but we can also use that data to help verify and validate and move forward as well.
And I just want to make one more comment, and then just that, the virtual meeting, she talked about getting through 80 some out of, questions out of 350 participants and all that. It was a Herculean effort, and I just wanted to thank the entire team, because while Melissa and Heather were on camera the whole time,
These
we
guys
had
are
a
right
lot of
here.
support in the background.
Thank you, Will.
Questions that were being funneled in. We had a lot of the team helping to answer them and get them over so that we can get through the questions quickly. And it was a well-oiled machine, and just want to publicly thank the professionalism of the team getting through so many questions in a short period.
It was amazing, and I will say that everyone was a cog, and if one was out of whack, it would have fallen. You know, what I mean, it wouldn't have worked. These folks over here, well, were specifically in charge. They were I'm gonna say producers. They're the ones who did everything with the PowerPoint presentation, with the running, with the video running, making sure all of that went, putting the camera on the right people. And that might not sound like a big deal, but oh my goodness, getting it all orchestrated without the drops in video, drops in audio, all those things it was amazing. It was wonderful to be a part of. Those experts that were at the meetings, we had a second room of those folks. So as the questions were coming in, I'm giving you the backroom story. So as the questions were coming in, they would get fed to those folks to ensure that they would have an answer ready that was specific. And those answers would come over to Heather and I. So while Heather was answering the question, I would be looking at the next question, making sure that I had all of the data that I needed and that I was hitting all of the points. Because as I said, people were jumping on and off. And one of our fears was that we would answer a question that was similar to a previous question and not provide enough information or a thorough response. So the folks in the other room were making sure that we maintained thorough responses throughout. They did a great job. It was fun, but it was wild.
I saw that the virtual portion is saved to the baycrossingstudy.com website. But when's the?
I encourage you to go there and look at the video.
Remind me, when is the comment period end?
October, I say that because we are currently in the middle of the CTP tours, and we end the discussion on the Bay Bridge by saying, I encourage you to look at the website, check it out, watch the video for yourself. You can provide comments. This is all the comment information. You can call, you can email, you can use the QR code. Provide comments in any of those different methods. And if you go to baycrossingstudy.com, this is there. So you can see exactly what to provide. But we're taking comments on that and on those meetings until October 14th. That doesn't mean we can't provide comments afterwards. We just do a summary of the meeting and we will say we had this many attendees, this many comments, and we'll do a nature of comments. So approximately 20% of the comments were concerned about the 2-mile corridor being too wide. Approximately 15% were concerned about the EMS issues. So we will summarize with themes of comments.
Study.
Sure.
There's 53 split to 97.
Yeah.
Roughly.
So, but Center River Bridge, but
I just think that on the Grant County side, right now, a good Saturday morning, We've got everything, wheels are turning 100%, nobody's going. Bay Bridge can overrun the 5301 split. And it's bad traffic up to the Canary Bridge. On a good Saturday morning, when they're running good hard, it backs up. So I think stopping the study there is not gonna be very productive. It's gonna actually cause more of an issue. It's gonna, another backup. They need to go clear to 404 and put the overpass and stuff all in. Wide at that point.
This is a very hot topic right now, because we're trying to figure out, tier one told us about that 22 miles. But, not in stone, not in stone. So we've had a lot of discussions about where our eastern and western terminal should be. What we're doing is moving forward, collecting our traffic. We're going to start working on our model, and we're going to, let's say organically, but let our model help us make those decisions as opposed to making decisions with past data. We're going to let the models help us make those decisions. And one of the things we have to look at is what is immediately contributed to the bridge and what are other problems that can. We were talking about the Southern River Bridge. On a really bad day, Bay Bridge problems and Southern River Bridge problems can ooze into each other. Yeah, and that's and what we're looking for is what's oozing into each other and what is truly related to the bridge. And I don't know that answer. As we develop this as we collect this traffic, populate the model, we're hoping to move forward. Another thing I want to mention on looking at E10 is that we are working closely with the State Highway Administration, realizing that 18 miles of the project is 32-mile project is under. We have consultants on board who are working for TAM, representing SHA and SHA's needs and interests on the project, and they are environmental and engineering. Excuse me, and they are active participants. They are at every meeting and they're reporting back, working with Tim, working with the 707 folks, the headquarters people, as well as the district people. So it's really a lot of coordination going on.
I want to add to, we were just at Talbot County CTP. And one of the commissioners there had suggested that the Bay Crossing study needed to extend through Eastern. And we previously heard that Ocean City believes that congestion going into Ocean City should be. So this needs to be a manageable study that is focused on relieving congestion around the bridge. So we do have to kind of keep it, there are congestion issues throughout the state. Capitol Beltway, we're not saying that signal timing issues on 50 are not real, but they're not necessarily germane to the regular congestion issues we have here. And so when Melissa's talking about defining, what's sort of flowing into related issues to the bridge, we kind of do need to carve out like, okay, yeah, there is a real problem there, but that's not really relevant for this study. So I just want to give us a little bit of protection long-term that we're not going to keep extending it further and further, because we're not going to finish in 5 years if that happens.
Well, also, in our travels around getting letters of support, we were asked that same question, well, why won't the study come here? And I think the answer that we always gave was, well, because things are going to change. What you do here in this corridor and what the decisions are in this corridor will have positive or negative impacts, but you won't know. You can't add somebody until you know what you've done here, in essence. So, and I agree with you on that. You keep adding and adding and adding, but
It's always seen us talking 53-1 split though. I think it'd be lanes and two.
oh yeah, well, no, I think the split itself with the legacy.
Three lane even more.
Right.
22, you really don't have an issue.
On the western shore, I would ask you to not forget the challenges we have with Sandy Point State Park. Nobody came to help us, and it totally boggles my mind how it took a citizens group to go and try to solve that, because nobody could get home off of East College Parkway. Totally backed up, bumper to bumper for years. And we finally called all elected officials in from the county and state police, and anybody who touched it. And the state police wouldn't help us. Yeah, we're just, the public. And we said, we're not leaving this room till you figure out how to manage this. Anne Arundel County Police came up and they said, we'll take it. We can't let you people not get home to your homes at night. This is not a county road. It's all state. And we finally accepted them, and every year I worry that they're gonna say, sorry, that they use all their overtime, or this again, they're to pay for that. But Sandy Point State Park was a killer, a monster growth, till we got this, the county police to come in.
Anybody else have any other comments from?
More of a general comment, and it's having my good friend on the back here. It should be noted that Commissioner Moran led a Herculean effort to get a lot of letters of support you and your county commissioners to get to this point. So that was great work. That ability for you to do that was fantastic. It was cool to watch because you kept us posted on what was going on.
That's Todd sitting right back there.
All Todd's fault.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, Todd. It's really all Todd. But you all did a great job. And I know that you both were driving forces behind it. So that was great work.
I've never seen that kind of support from the elected officials on a project, and it really helps us be able to say your elected officials are speaking for you. So thank you very much.
Anything else? We want unfinished business. I mean, unfinished business is some updates required from the April meeting. I'll now turn the floor over to Will Hines of MDTA.
So basically the two pending,
So,
we're gonna do tonight, two other ones. the
I
next
think
summer.
the first item with the questions on the Attorney General, we're gonna have that covered under the new business with the grant management and legalities. So if I can just defer that one for a second. We have shared at MDOT SHA, I don't know if you want to comment on it, and I'm just looking to see, I think all of these are SHA items. Obviously.
Sort of turn the floor.
Sorry, Tim.
You're right.
I'm just looking to see if there's anything that I know I should comment.
We did
You
share
know,
the results
those in his
on our
notes.
website. They're addressing the lane condition that's being addressed later this month, but not really next month. We did share our customer care management system folks, so. All checks. So, different.
Yeah, the first one you'll hear about in a second, so we think it's gonna be a check.
Right, so I wonder, we'll back one thing. You have any comments for the, thing in the public that you did? Public.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Activity for later.
Sorry, I was late.
We need that for the, particular report.
Yeah. You know, I've been to a number of local community meetings and groups that I'm involved with. What I just stated is a concern going forward that I'm hearing the most, and that is this 2 mile wide spot. And, you know, you addressed that quite well, I think. And that's the biggest concern. I mean, getting the emergency services, I really have to, that's probably the next concern that I hear. But the other really good thing that I want to say commendation is the effort to communicate, to get information out through baseband, through the emails we get, the MDTA emails. As conditions change, here comes another email, but they're helpful. And what I say to folks is, before you go out, be informed. Check what you're going to write into and happen later. And that you guys are helping out with that. It's a challenge, but generally, that's positive feedback. I would say. Thanks, Tracy.
Mr. Commissioner, Chairman, to follow up on your point about communications, MDTA and SHA, they're constantly in connection with the conditions that are happening in and around the bridge. So it's not, it's a great team effort behind the scenes. Joey's actually over there pulling a bunch of strings and everything and on it 24/7. And Tim's folks, Jason, is doing the same thing. But no, what you don't see behind the scenes is that collaboration. So, and it's evident by your comments.
It is
there.
deserved.
And Joey will tell you if an alert doesn't come out, I'll send him a text, even if he's on an airplane. But it's generally just a few minutes behind, so, yeah, it's fantastic. Oh, I'm sorry, Jason, didn't see something.
Yeah, two other media methods you didn't mention is we do, John Sales is here, his team regularly updates Twitter on the MDTA page that also has the backup list incidents during the heavier periods. And the state 511 site provides notices on incidents, so there's a lot of information out there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Very. New business. First.
I'll take care of the temporary rent. So I guess that was the big topic last BRAG. We kind of announced we we're gonna do that pilot at Oceanic. So we followed through that commitment in August. So I just wanted to provide kind of like overview. We're still diving into the deeper data a little more, but I want to provide preliminary kind of where we're at with things. So we did actually collected data in multiple different areas prior to the actual the temporary traffic signal being put in. So we collected data Memorial Day, the weekend after Memorial Day, and then that first weekend in July, just to kind of figure out where we're at with school being out versus school being in. And then obviously we did it August 4th through August 7th. And then the following weekend, August 11th through the 14th. And just to give you an idea, some of the type of data we were looking at, we looked at travel times on US 50, basically from 70 to Maryland 70 to the Bay Bridge. We looked at traffic counts on the ramps, different mainline segments, as well as some local intersections. We had staff out doing field observations and taking some photos and seeing some crazy things going on there too, as well as videos and dash cams. We're using our sensor data and our partners as well. We were getting some information from Google, Waze, and also INREX. We're obviously using our other ITS devices in terms of cameras and signs and as well. So just to give you some trends. So what I wanted to kind of do is paint you a picture for what it looked like before we did the traffic signal. So what we noticed was traffic conditions kind of, as I'm preaching the choir here, but it varied significantly from day to day, meaning even hour to hour, to be honest with you. There were, we would see long periods of severe congestion and then significant number of vehicles kind of diverting onto the local systems. And then there'd be, great periods where we had free flowing and virtually no diversions onto the local system. So we were able to calculate some average travel times with that, but I'm going to preface that with when you have that large variability, I'm going to go back and use my sports analogy here. We're kind of starting into basketball season. You can have somebody that scores 20 points a game. Ideally, they're always at like 19 to 21. But when they score 0 points one night and 40 the next night, the reliability is not necessarily there, although your average is 20. And that's what we were kind of seeing with some of that. So what we noticed was the diversions. And like I said, I know we're preaching the choir here. Diversions are more tied to contraflow, whether that we had it open or not, rather than necessarily time of day, what day it was. And then we also noticed the weather and we had any incidents along the corridor. That was almost more contributing to things as well. We did see more congestion patterns, more variable on Friday and Saturday. They were more consistent on Sunday. I think that's, to be honest, I think with Sundays, we're not normally in contraflow, so we always have 3 lanes coming westbound. I think that's where it just tends to be a little more consistent on Sundays. When folks were diverting, I think Waze is giving them that advice because we were seeing up to 10 minutes of time savings for those folks that were jumping off onto some of the service roads at that time. Until the service roads or local roads then got congested, then that time went down. But initially they were seeing like roughly a 10 minutes time saving. So just to give you an idea, over all that entire time when we didn't have the signal in place, like I said, from Maryland to Brown Boulevard to Bay Bridge, we averaged 24 minutes to get from that point from those 2 points. But that varied, like I said, from anywhere from 10 minutes to 70 minutes, but with the average being like 24. So then we put the traffic signal in, right? So we did that first weekend, and what we noticed was traffic flow actually on US 50 main line improved compared to the typical condition. We looked at some of our, like I said, our average travel time with the NREX. We saved almost 2 minutes if you stayed on 50 during that time. Now, we think that's contributed to, that's why we do ramp metering in other locations. As you have folks kind of exiting from one ramp onto a main line, that friction movement of folks yielding.
Everybody's in off Route 8 trying to get to the bridge.
Right.
And everybody's gonna slow down, let them in, thousands of cars.
I think there's opportunities for education, because I think some folks just either just come over or put their blanket on and they think that, you know, conveniently
They're coming over.
solves the yield requirement. But I think that weaving movement, you know, that creates that accordion backs up 50 as you have folks coming in. And so, I think but then we go to the second weekend. We didn't have the same results the second weekend. We saw almost 10 minutes longer on 50 at that time. And what we saw second weekend was we had some weather issues that weekend. We didn't always have time to flow in. We had some incidents. I know we had the emergency response vehicles literally at the end of our ramp where we were doing the improvements. So while we saw some improvements that first weekend on 50, we did not see it necessarily the second weekend. And then we started take a deeper dive into some of our, you know, we looked at 2 diversion routes, kind of like a northern one where we're looking at College Parkway, and then more of a southern one where you're looking at Whitehall and Skidmore. So normally both of those routes, if that was your planned route, it takes you 15 minutes. What we were seeing during both weekends, it ranged anywhere from once we had the signal in place, 90 to 140 minutes to traverse that area on the northern route. Now, the southern route was a little better. When I say Whitehall and Skidmore to Oceanic, that was only 70 to 90 minutes. Not that that's a whole bunch better, but it's still roughly 40% or half of what it was.
Yeah,
But and then what we also,
What happened that during that period of time, it just clogged up that intersection at 31. But people couldn't get out of the community at Whitehall Road and make the left. People were coming back from 32 and they were blocking up 31. That was unbelievable.
and that was going to be my next point. Just we had you know, basically a lot of congestion right there at 31, and I think some folks that got into that were making some interesting decisions with U-turns and areas that are not designed for U-turns, and the 16-point U-turns at times as well. But what we noticed is obviously those 2 weekends, we did not change driver behavior. A lot of folks that were going to do that did it anyway. I also wanted to highlight kind of what we were seeing from Waze and Google. What was, you know, our partnership with them? What was that telling us? What we noticed was it was still directing folks once 50 became congested to use alternate routes, but it wasn't telling them to go to Oceanic. It was telling them to get off on other different locations, right? So just kind of a quick little broad brush conclusions there. What we saw was like with the first week, we feel like the temporary ramp management was able to provide us some improvement with traffic flow on 50. But obviously, we created different congestion on the local system by doing it. The travel times, the second week, obviously, we did not have the time savings on 50, and we still had the congestion on the local system. We still feel like whether there's an incident or weather, that's going to be a more contributing factor than any ramp management we can put in. But we also know that we got to look at the entire system, not necessarily just one ramp or one location. You know, that's kind of what we've been trying to do as state highways and overall. We try not to look at one particular intersection or one particular mile corridor because, you know, I use this analogy when I spoke with Broadneck in February. traffic is a lot like water. It's just gonna always try to find the path of least resistance, right? So if you're just looking at one location, it's gonna go find a different location. So you gotta look at the entire system. And I think what the great work that MDTA has done with removing some of the toll booths, we've created a new normal now, right? So what Melissa said, it sometimes that past data isn't always valuable now, is that we have kind of that free flow movement now. So what we kind of, we're looking at is, like I said, we need to look at the entire system on the whole Broad Neck Peninsula and look at those opportunities. But I know part of that's what we want to talk about is legalities on just how things are working. So I know Sean, you kind of want to talk a little bit about some of that.
Yeah, thanks, Tim.
Before we get out of the ramp management stuff.
Yeah.
Is that something you're looking to do again next year or a different location? Like Route 8 and Blue Street?
I'm gonna let potentially put a pin in that one. I'll circle back. There's some things that kind of tie into legalities.
Okay.
That I want to talk about in the future after Sean kind of lays the groundwork for some of these things.
Oh,
I would, I think 2 weekends isn't enough to get the data you're looking for. I think that, when you talk about traffic's like water, I think that's a great analogy. And the funnel is the Bay Bridge. And there's really, you got Route 50 feeding into it, then you've got the access roads. You shut off the access roads, they gotta stay on Route 50, or they're not gonna get across the bridge. So, we have some poison pills, and we'll send emails every weekend to tell us, what's going on with the traffic on the Broad Neck Peninsula. I'm referring to your side. And we didn't get those emails so access must have been available somewhere. I mean, I don't know how bad it was on those side roads. I don't live on this side, but I understand and I feel your pain because that's what we've dealt with, but I think we've turned the corner on that. So, I thought the light, I didn't think it was gonna work, and I think it's doing what it should be doing. It should be telling ways and should be telling everybody that knows that route. It's not available for you anymore unless you want to sit here for an hour and a half and stay on 50 and stay off the side roads. And I think that's what we need to start working. And I know you are, but I think that's the priority now. I think that a lot of things we've progressed in, communication to the public, signage, the gates, everything. I think the last piece is now keeping people off the side roads over here in the Broad Neck Peninsula. And hopefully we can get to that.
Great. Anything else for Tim?
We'll get it later.
Okay, all right, thanks. And thank you, Mr. Chair, and thanks, Tim. Secretary Ports did hear you're seeking some advice on legalities of shutting down.
You're seeking a representative.
Right. So he reached out to the Federal Highway Administration, who controls the federal highway dollars and things like that. So we went straight to the source to figure out what's going on.
So they have, federal has control over what you have to enter more than the state legislature.
Well, yeah, they have control over like the federal dollars, and we follow behind their federal regulation. Exactly.
Right.
So, yeah, so why not go to the source to figure out what would be the issue? So they did, they wrote back to the secretary on September 20th. He wrote them earlier in September. And what he saw was, I'll read the first paragraph, and I have the letter for everyone too. The administrator from Federal Highway said, we received your letter dated September 2nd requesting FHWA's determination regarding allowing MDOT to restrict public access on state routes or ramps and limit access to local residents only, or limited public access during heavy congestion periods. You also requested FHWA determination on whether MDOT's access to federal funds could be jeopardized by implementing any sort of restriction. I kind of paraphrased a little bit there. And in their letter, they did confirm, like I said, I'll share this letter with you, that the federal safety formula funding could be affected if we limited public travel existing on state routes or public ramps during periods of congestion. And it's federal regulation 23 CFR 46.2C, which is pointed out here in the letter. I won't read all of that to you. Basically, limiting access to local residents only during periods of heavy congestion does not align with the exceptions allowed in the reference regulations. Schedule, and one of the references is scheduled periods of closures, which could be for system preservation, brief periods for events like a parade, or we have the Bay Bridge walk run type thing that happens, but not congestion. Heavy congestion does not meet extreme weather emergency conditions such as snow accumulation, icing, flooding, deck punctures, sinkholes, major structure damage, crashes, fires, national security related events, law enforcement related events, hurricane and tropical storm evacuations, which we just saw, unfortunately, for our good friends and family members down in Florida. There are multiple considerations to factors to consider here. The impact to our overall federal highway. We're not willing to risk our resources. Similarly, the HUR federal funding, the HUR funding formula is calculated similar to the federal funds, which the county's just got a great restoration there for the miles traveled on the roadways. And so, if we reduce those miles traveled on the roadways, it not only affects what happens maybe for the roadways right here for federal aid, but it could affect the formula like in a domino effect across the state. Similarly, it could happen with HUR if the locals were to close off their roads. Similar funding could be affected by either Queen Anne's or Anne Arundel County, and then that would rebalance the formula for the HURs and reduction here, but maybe addition in Allegheny and all the other counties. I just use Allegheny because they're just about the farthest away. And as far as decisions made here, they would have statewide impacts, as I mentioned. There's other heavily congested areas across the state that could be impacted by this approach. If local roads were closed due to congestion, all roads along like 495, 695, 295, anything around the Baltimore and Washington beltways would be closed all or most of the time simply because of what's going on. So, that's some of the mindset we have to take in consideration when we look at the closure and how that could affect. And the federal formula funding is for our safety funding for the federal formula. So we can't take a risk of reducing that because safety on our roadways for our travelers and team members are our number one priority, and Tim will attest to that. They talk safety all the time. So does Joe and Jason. So I mentioned the HUR funding, closing the road. What could happen if the locals close their roads? And so with that, that's the basic presentation. We put together some talking points out of what the Fed sent us, and I have 5 for that side. And this is the letter that they sent us. It's basically 3 paragraphs. But that's what they sent us. And we want to give you some examples of what congestion issues could be for like emergencies and things like that.
I guess my comments on this would be, I don't know why we keep saying residents only, because I can see where they would reject that.
Yeah.
It should be for everybody. It shouldn't just, and I assume we're talking about the ramp itself, and shutting the ramp, not the roads, because it is a safety issue. You shut the ramps, the side roads don't have traffic on it anymore. Emergency services can get around, and I think that's the way I would have sold that. But to say that, we're going to close it for residents only, then I would kill that too. I mean, it should be for everybody. So, I guess it's how you ask the question is probably how you get your answer. So, I feel that we should have said everybody, not residents only.
Well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe in the past, people have suggested that we close it just for the local. I mean,
Yeah,
like,
just
just
that's, I understand.
Yeah, so we had
that
that as part of the question too.
Correct,
Yeah.
right. And I think, we've had that conversation.
But I see what you're saying as far as a general comment, we should just say closures.
Nobody gets favoritism over anybody
Right.
else. And it's
And this does help me if I'm wrong here, but they actually do highlight or limited public access. So that, like, there's multiple alternatives
Right.
in the consideration.
Right, yeah, and I didn't.
They limit access to local residents only.
So the first part says limit access to local residents only or limited public access.
Right.
So they're capturing both.
Maybe.
Well,
Yeah.
Again, they're the ones that write the checklists.
I understand, I
Yeah.
believe you, we can't do that, but to me, that's why I said, that's not a possibility. I put that red light up and I keep that red light up. And it's just, we had the congestion on the Eastern Shore for all those years, and it's the same amount of traffic going through there, but we don't have it anymore. They realize that Route 50 is the quickest route. And I think that's the sooner we can get eastbound traffic to realize that and know that they can't skirt around a 1 mile backup to cause another backup. I think that's when things will get better for the Broadneck Peninsula. And one of the ways is, believe me, I've had a lot of people Queen Anne's County come up and say, that damn, you know, that light, you know, they lost their minds about it. I said, well, stay on 50, you know, why, we don't want that light, we, you know, I know you don't want that light, but you know, that's some of our, mostly, a lot of our residents and Eastern Shore residents are clogging the Broadneck Peninsula roads, and I get it. Yeah,
Yeah.
so.
Gotcha. Ms. Lewis, I think you got a question or a comment.
I went over to Oceanic, 3 of the 4 days, both weekends, and just parked there to see what was going on. And what was interesting, it became the U-turn derby after a while when the cars realized that they couldn't get down Oceanic.
During the rain.
The U-turn.
Yeah.
But when I parked at exit 31, and what was interesting, there might be 12 cars that had, and they were coming from the west as well, and it's from Oceanic, so they were all converging at 31. And yet they easily went on it. We didn't have the problems that we had in Oceanic. It was almost as if the cars had left in a lane because they just, without much delay, that lane of cars waiting just slid right on the Route 50. I don't know why or how, but I thought, this is amazing because it's a better place to enter Route 50 if you're on the service road, and they come on the service road from Old Mill Bottom Road and Cape St. Clair Road. And so they're still coming, but I did notice decrease in, I mean, it was such, as you're right, it was such a short, 2 weeks for union time, but for the time that I was logging in, what was happening.
You saw those weekends?
I did.
Pretty much.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. But for the time I was here, I did notice that it seemed to be lighter on the service roads. But that, again, could have been, the weather wasn't that bad.
Makes sense.
Right,
I think so. Thank you.
I guess I just wanted to, I think Commissioner Brand might have looked at some of my notes here. That's a question.
He's been on my computer all day.
I might be an IT expert.
Concrete and IT.
But I guess to kind of put a bow or not necessarily a bow, but just kind of wrap this up is just, we had some promising results, especially from the first weekend, but they were mixed. Like I mentioned before, I think the weather incidents, weather and contraflow, it has significantly impacts us. And I think, like I mentioned before, I think just looking at the entire system rather than just in a particular intersection, I think is our best kind of path forward there. So what I was going to propose and just, you know, obviously work with the community and make sure they're comfortable with it was to look at multiple interchanges on the Broadneck and that opportunities for additional longer period of time to collect the data, and more importantly, try it back to what I said last time. In order to do this, you need to change driver behavior. We're not going to do it in 2 weekends, but I think this potential solution just expanded over more interchanges over a longer period
Beautiful
of time.
tunnel lights on different, I agree with you. I think, I mean, it would be a pain for the residents to begin with, but it would get off those roads, yeah.
You want to stop using it, that wouldn't.
Yeah.
But I think that if our ultimate goal is to keep folks on 50 and change their behavior and keep the service roads open, we're gonna have a longer period to change their behavior. So
It could be a longer period of discomfort to get where we need to be.
So that's kind of based on, like I said, that pilot, what we saw, what we have in terms of options for legality, and then that's kind of what I'm proposing. I know Kim Tran, our district engineer, is going to meet with the community here soon. We'll have some more of those discussions as well.
How many of those do you have?
Yeah.
Like,
Probably not enough that I need.
used to. Pretty. Duke Street, so you have some, but they first come off Duke Street. It's too bad. It needs two places.
And then I think we need further discussion about exit 31 as well, because we have six. I'm not sure everyone's following all the traffic sign signals there.
They're not.
You're not supposed to make certain movements, and I witnessed that.
If you're on, if
Yesterday,
you're on
today, so
50,
I've been using 50 a lot these.
if you're on 50 and you're supposed to get off at 31, it's no U-turn. Everybody makes a U-turn, okay? That takes up 2 lanes. If you're going down the service road heading east, you're not supposed to make a left turn onto 50 at 31, and they do it.
But if you're going west,
Well, there's a lot of conflicting movements there, because if you're trying to come off 50, you have a free movement. If you're trying to make a left going eastbound on that, that is the dangerous situation.
Well, they ought to close it as an entrance. Just make it exit only at 31.
But what we noticed during the pilot run is one that did the 16-point U-turn was a bigger box truck. It's tough for someone going westbound on, since Skidmore there, to make a right onto 50. You can't do it, stay in the lane you're supposed
That's
to.
why you close it as an entrance. So just make it an exit. No problem.
That's our briefing on the branch management.
For the update. For conclusion, then we're going to put some new lights on next spring, for that. As I think, I want to convenience people long enough. Get ahead for that. And fast. All right, the next is our traffic volumes, 2022 versus previous years. Marcus, followed by the administrator, we can all be alert.
All right, so this was a requested item, just to sort of present, I guess, the data for summer of this summer versus previous summers, basically. So,
Well, the reason I asked for it, just so everybody knows, I mean, I think it's good for all of us to understand that, you know, what COVID affected and didn't affect, and because I always get the questions, you know, how much traffic is going across is inflation, the cost of gasoline, you know, is that affecting it? And that's one of the reasons I wanted to get the numbers, and I was kind of shocked that I got big numbers, because it looked like nothing affects it. That beast wants to go across that bridge every year, so, yeah.
all right, well, then I'm done, so. Yeah, so I guess, you know, we did look at summer only, so, now, you know, this may be a little hard to read, but it's gonna, a little bit like just mixed up spaghetti here, but, bear with me. So if you can go to the next slide, please. So this is every day of June, July, and August for this year, but then going back to 2015. And the lighter the color, the further back in time. The orange color, and this will be the same throughout all of these graphs, is the year 2020. So that's the COVID year. So that's the year you'll see at the bottom of these graphs. And again, as we've talked before in prior presentations, 2020 at the Bay Bridge was not representative of 2020 around the country. We still had significant volumes, but down, but still we had our issues here at the bridge. So for every day of the summer, you can see in the darkest of lines for the eastbound, you know, except from the highest peaks in the PM, again, it's the average of every day, so weekends, weekdays. There, we saw a drop off in the westbound direction in morning peak. You know, it's just not as peaky as it used to be. But you can see in the evenings, you know, for the average of the every day of the week, it was right mixed in there with everything else. And for this one, you can see 2020 was right there with that too. So COVID as well. All right, so then after the summer of all and every day, I broke it down into the weekends. So if you can go to the next graph.
On the front,
Yeah.
eastbound.
Yeah.
You can figure in the evening, everybody's coming home from work, that it's gonna rise.
Correct.
You know, starts at 1,400 or like 1,200 goes up.
Yes.
Then it starts dipping down at 1,900 or so, but it seems like the westbound traffic, it just, once it goes up, it stays. Sort of.
Yeah. Maybe back to that from our project.
That goes back to our point we trying to make about collecting tolls on the westbound bridge.
Yeah.
Are we missing revenue? I mean, y'all just it goes, well, this is not fine, this is hours of the day, but it's gonna be like that.
If you go back to the presentation Melissa gave us, okay, and she had a bar chart that showed the eastbound, and westbound volumes. They're pretty close, right? So it's not directional enough to just.
Total amount of vehicles per day.
Per day.
I think what he's looking at is it gets to a certain plateau and it stays there longer, where eastbound might come up and spike, go higher, spike, come down, still the same amount of vehicles, yeah.
And I guess two comments, just, the scale on the y-axis is not always the same. So if you just were to try to compare these side by side, it's not equal, unfortunately. I didn't get that for that. But then the other thing is that unlike a lot of toll facilities that may have an untold direction, this facility, the eastbound, the toll direction, often a little bit higher volume than the untold direction. So a couple of percentages more in the toll direction, which is not always typical of a toll facility versus.
Right, you think we're talking around the other way?
You would, yeah, right, and often that's what they'll see.
Well, that's good information, that's what I mean, so, yeah, we had that question asked.
Yeah,
So I thought Delaware, then that would be, westbound.
so we've heard that as well. We just haven't been able to bear that out. And, you know, yeah, it's a very significant number. All right. So let's see, we're on to the Friday graph. So for our Fridays, I guess just generally, again, you can kind of see some of that lighter blues in that PM area were higher in previous years. But again, you can see the darker colors in the morning, we had higher volumes on a Friday morning than we've seen in the years past. So something's driving that pattern to move a little bit and shift a little bit earlier on Fridays. In the westbound direction, again, we get back to that PM, the AM peak not being what it used to be. But then you can see in the evening, we were higher westbound than we were in years past. So again, just sort of the change that we saw this year. And generally, you'll see this line here is 2021, and the darkest line is this year. So those two have, you know, for most of these graphs have kind of been similar in their pattern. So, you know, after COVID 2020, maybe, you know, that's going to be a pattern that bears out. We'll have to see. Next graph. All right, so we move on to Saturdays, and again, it's all, you know, kind of just, it's hard to distinguish anything, but that's kind of the point. It's all mixed in, it's all right there. So with the things that you were talking about,
Yeah.
you know, the gas prices, it's all still right here. We still,
Disease and recession proof.
yeah, yeah, the demand is there. Yeah. So there's a little bit of variation with some of the westbound results here on Saturday. But again, Saturdays are tough in the summer and we have that competing demand. And you can see westbound, we're peaking at 3,500. Eastbound, we're just under 4,000. So that's a lot of vehicles. And if you were to overlay those, they start to, you know, kind of cross, and I'll do that in a graph.
Yeah, just because you've explained this to me, he's a smarter traffic engineer than I'll ever dream to be. Like, if you look at eastbound at that like 1,500, 1,400 hour, where it starts to flatten off, that flattening is indicative of where it not in contraflow because the volume's too high at the similar hour westbound.
Yeah.
So there's demand there, but it can't get through.
That's
right?
correct, right? So if it were, you know, we constrain the flow because we're beyond capacity. And then when we take away that capacity, it drops it down, that eastbound one, but that's where it's allowed to spring up over here in the opposite direction. So, yeah, and then again, these are averaged over every Saturday for the summer. So it's kind of blended there a little bit, vary a little bit, but if you would look at each individual day, you can compare when it went in, when it went out.
And this is averaging, tell me if I'm right or wrong, Jim. Does this this is like normal reoccurring congestion and not like anomalies for holidays and incidents and other things like that.
It's all gonna be blended together on this one.
Okay.
Everyone, I didn't omit any particular Saturday, included everyone, so it blended all that together, so that, you know, weather or holiday, travel, it all put it together for us here. And finally, Sunday, again, eastbound, just real tight, not very much variation over the, what I have here, 8 years. So, it's been very tight and, westbound, I guess, you know, just trying to figure out, you know, what's going on here, watching that. So that, I think, I didn't quantify it, but I feel like we had less of, you know, the queues on the some, you know, Sundays seemed to, you know, by this, the demand wasn't necessarily there as late on Sunday, so it lasted like as long as years passed. So, at least for the last 2 years in COVID, you know, kind of started falling off at the end. So something we'll watch, obviously. You know, we're doing the traffic model, at least digging into that more and more.
What I've noticed is when I look at the traffic cams and on Sundays, there's always a backup at like 10, 12. It goes back towards red, hot, and blue. It doesn't go
Eastbound
back,
direction.
and I haven't seen that in past years. It seems like, in fact, a couple of us were watching it at the same time, and we said, you know, it's like Sundays now, and then even be like Saturdays and Fridays, because there's never a space. It's always a complete backup as far as the eye can see.
Yeah, let's see, we might get into that a little bit here in the next slide. So this one I just labeled a competing demand. This is a Saturday, so this is one day. So this is Saturday, July 16th. And what the dashed lines on this graph, they represent the westbound direction. The solid lines represent the eastbound direction. So that's why the morning there, Saturday morning is so high over there. Eastbound has the contraflow lane, westbound does not. So westbound is constrained to just the 2 lanes available for it. And then you can just sort of see, you know, where we need to sort of go to 2-way. Typically, it starts to drop the eastbound, westbound. So, and then again, I've used this before, but this is essentially some of our traffic data that we're able to map the speeds on the roadways, and essentially it's showing, you know, what you all know. The Saturdays this year, we had, you know, queues on both directions, and so again, just that balancing act. The fact that we have demand from both sides and just trying to deal with that, and it's more demand than we have the capacity, even under our management system, to be able to handle. And so I guess we can just continue with that theme on the next slide, my last slide. This is a Sunday. So this one, again, talks a little bit about what was just mentioned, where on this graph, you can see both the demand, the volumes start to climb together essentially over there on the left side of that graph over there. And then because we have no contraflow, westbound can continue to rise, while eastbound gets capped. And so the resulting, you know, effect to the both shores is shown here, where you have some level of congestion eastbound, and as well, because of the demand from westbound, you have some level of congestion over there as well. Just despite, you know, the pressures on, you know, travel, we're having issues out here this year, and the volumes were still here. You know, overall, let's take down, but in some of those key periods, it was right there where it's been for many years now. And that's all the information I had for you.
Thank you, great stuff.
I have a question for you.
Yeah.
excuse me, back in the 2008 and 10 period, there was quite a drop off during the great economic crash of that period. So obviously there was a pretty effective correlation between national economic activity and that period. In the first quarter of 2020, when the pandemic hit, it really knocked business flat. In the first quarter of 2020 as versus the first quarter of 2019, did you see a considerable drop off in that first quarter? Because that was the only one that really had a national effect. After that, things picked up pretty quickly, but that first one just knocked everything. So what were your results in that period? The reason I'm asking that is right now the Fed is trying to engineer a recession. And whether it's going to be effective or not, nobody knows, but it's going to have certainly some effect starting the first of next year. So that's going to be an interesting workout to see.
So, yeah, we did, I think our largest system-wide, our largest drop in traffic volumes was in April of 2020. So just at, the start of Q2. And that, I think, system-wide was around 54%. 54%. I think. Yeah.
Wow.
That was the lowest.
Yeah.
I think we were looking at by week.
And remember, during that time, there were shutdowns where you had to be essential to even be out.
Yeah.
I mean, we had papers in our cars saying we could come down here and work on the bridge. So it was.
I take your point, but still, we don't want to look at this sort of national effect of economic activity and traffic.
But I will say that, especially at this facility, rebounded very quickly.
Yes.
And you could see from, if you looked at that orange line we had on that graph, it was right up there. Even when you averaged it out, and we talked about before, how we had days that exceeded, 2017, 2018, 2019, which were, highest up to that point, some of the highest years on record. And then we had some days that exceeded, the same day the year before. So
There was a
Wow.
very specific reason why that was going on, and it's an interesting one because a lot of public facility gathering places were closed down, but one thing that was open were beaches, and we got crowded down on all our beaches, so people did feel, there was a way out. So that is not necessarily the effect of an economic engine, it's something else going on.
I think Jim's point is that until we see data that shows otherwise, we're going to continue to say, expect the waves. Because we need to say that because all of our results are showing.
I'm not arguing,
Yeah.
I'm just kind of interested in the math of it.
Right. Yeah, no, we just, it's a delicate balance. Like we did see a recessional drop like what you talked about, but we could, for our customers, we don't want there to be confusion. Like, oh, well, next summer will be great. I'll travel then. Maybe not. We'll see what next summer brings.
Take your point, sir.
Any other questions? Okay, we move on to the next. Thank you very much. Very good. Thank you. Everybody should have the PowerPoint to Melissa sent out. Everybody have that? Not you didn't get your email.
It'd be great.
It was a good job. So next we have Richard, Member Administrator, you want to go over the conference flow? Another question?
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. For the record, my name is Richard Hartman, Baybridge. So just give you a quick update on contraflow. You've all seen this before, but we're pulling the guts out, the major areas, the trigger points on when we go in and when we come out. Just to update you based on what you heard from Jim, based on what you heard from Melissa, based on what you heard as a whole for a network, right? But looking here at the Bay Bridge, so next slide, please. So again, you've seen this, there have been slight updates, again, remembering that we're trying to make sure that we're sharing on both sides, right? And so we've been able to make those adjustments. So contraflow will be implemented on the westbound bridge when eastbound traffic flow
volumes start to reach 2,800 vehicles per hour, or eastbound delays start to reach 1.5 miles, which is approximately exit 31. And that was reduced from 3,200 vehicles and or 2.5 miles. So you can see how we're given there. And again, you know, you've heard it all before, many times, whether it's a major contributor to everything else. So again, so you're seeing that when we're going into contraflow. Next slide, please. So when we're going to discontinue contraflow on the westbound bridge, again, they're constantly monitored. You know, we get this question all the time, you know, how often do you watch it? We're watching these every minute, we get updates every 5 minutes on the volumes. And so we're constantly watching those. We have various individuals watching it. So whenever we will discontinue contraflow when the eastbound traffic volumes fall below 2,800, traffic volumes in the contraflow lane are below 900 vehicles per hour. Again, that's that safety aspect for contraflow and head-on. Also, weather conditions become unfavorable, and or if westbound traffic volumes start to reach 3,200 vehicles per hour, or westbound delays start to approach 39A, which is Casa Marina 2.5, and if Maryland Route 8 is congested back towards Casa Marina Road. So we're watching on the bridge, we're watching on 50, we're watching on the side roads. And again, this was 2,800, and when westbound was reaching 1.5, you can see we've given a little bit again, kind of give a little time on both sides, kind of share that pain, right? So we will re-implement contraflow when the westbound traffic volumes are below 3,200 vehicles per hour, or westbound backups are clear, and or if eastbound conditions meet the regular implement triggers, as we mentioned before. So this is basically, go ahead and go to the next slide, but those two were the major updates that you heard, seen, that we stick with, and that we've modified to work with each side of our neighbors. And so contraflow summary, contraflow is based on traffic volumes, queues, accidents, disabled, lane closures, and emergency situations. Contraflow has no typical, well, it has typical ranges at times. It's not based on scheduled hours. It's actual traffic conditions. Contraflow is weather dependent. And again, next slide is core issue, traffic volume. It exceeds lane capacity. It's not contraflow timing. It's not management. And again, you've seen this on Sundays every day. So, and always safety is not always priority number one. And I know Pat has heard that. She said, it's all you say. And yes, it is. It is. It's all we say. Safety is priority. So that's all I have. Again, just a brief little update just to let you know, heard about all the backups, all the system, everything. We've modified and we've listened and we're modifying and we're starting to see a line. I think we're starting to share. Everyone's sharing.
So I got a question. So with the new gate system, you're the gatekeeper. Right? You're the gate, you're the one watching the volume, you're the one that's gonna push it in and out of contraflow.
There are multiple people watching it.
Well, be that as it may, I'm getting to the point where, I mean, is it something where you feel that it could very well possibly be on a Saturday, or even a Friday, where you might go in and out of contraflow multiple times? And if so, what is your estimate of when you say, I'm gonna go into contraflow and the gates are all operational, what's the time before cars are actually traveling on the westbound bridge?
So we do that flip back and forth today.
I know you do, yeah. I know.
Over and over.
Yeah.
So when the gates are implemented, okay, we will go through the same process.
Right.
Of when and if traffic volumes demand, we will be flipping back and forth.
So what's the difference in time from what you're doing now to when you actually have to just push a button, the gates will operate? I'm just trying to get a feel for, is it taking you 20 minutes to do it now, and when the gates come in, it'll be 5 minutes? Is it?
So first, let me point out that it takes approximately 20 to 30 minutes. Okay. Now the gates are built around one thing: making sure we get our folks out of the roadway and by traffic, and so now they'll be in a vehicle as opposed to out of the vehicle. Okay. And so there'll be those features. But so when we add the gates, you gotta remember, this is a system. It's not just gates. It's a full system, which is composed of gates, IPMs, additional lane signals, additional overhead signs. So there's additional devices which, as part of the safety, we have to confirm and verify that the IPMs are lit up, that the gates are deployed, that any gates need to be retracted, that that lane signals are all lit up, and the overhead message signs are all displayed. Okay, so there's additional verification. So this is not about savings. We anticipate that there'll be some savings. But again, the system is, we're at 20 to 30 minutes now. We will see what those savings will be when we get the gate system in and get our people in place and verify all the devices. But I imagine we'll have a slight savings in time.
Well, let me rephrase that then. How about in a year from now? Because you're not gonna have people out there at all times.
So let me just say too, Richard, that this is a process, right? So
Yeah.
when Richard talks about this as a system, the way that this is gonna work, let's say you're traveling westbound, you got green X's in all three lanes, right?
Green arrows.
Green arrows, right? Green arrows. So it's good. It's getting late. Green arrows, which I want to be in a few minutes. It's gonna go from a green arrow to a yellow X. That yellow X means you need to get out of the lane. Right then, yellow is get out of the lane. Red is you should have already been out of the lane. It's to think of it like a traffic signal. When you pull up to a red light, that doesn't mean you still have time to go. It means you should be out, right? So we're gonna transition from green to yellow to red. And only after that will the gates deploy. When our team has ensured, looking at the cameras, that the lane is clear. Then you got when you're going through this process, you're gonna have traffic in the lane. That's gonna need to clear off the bridge. So there's a implementation cycle that we're gonna go through, and that's gonna have a certain time period to it, to do that, right? So that we're guesstimating, truthfully, probably 15 minutes or so to deploy and clear out the lane. But I think Richard's point is that until we actually do it and see
That's what I was getting.
what driver behavior is, how many people say, well, I know I don't actually have to get out when it's red, and all those kind of things, that will help us understand really day to day how well that's all going to switch over. And if driver behavior is good, people see the red X and they get in the lane right away, great, we might be able to shave off a few minutes there. But it is going to be a learning thing to really see how people respond to the system. As far as us being able to switch over more regularly, a lot of that has to do with the benefits of doing that, right? So today, when Richard showed on the contraflow side, I think we've heard really positive feedback about how we're pushing and sharing the pain more. We used to never allow backups in the westbound direction because we didn't want to back up the local roads on both sides. Now we're allowing a little bit, but we've kind of, from a risk perspective, said, we're only going to let these local roads on both sides be congested at the same time because we're, same as the public, concerned about EMS being able to get to the bridge. We have an accident, you got both directions backed up, the local roads backed up, now you have a big problem. You can't get anybody there to respond. So our ability to switch over back and forth multiple times is really about the conditions on the ground. So we're certainly, as we implement this, going to be talking to the BRAG, showing you what's happening, assessing if there's opportunities to share the pain because we got a little bit of operational efficiencies with moving back and forth, but that will really depend on the success of how drivers respond to it, whether we can keep people on 50, all of these things kind of working in concert.
And a year down the road, when we're all here together, happy, smiling, right? We have general procedures that we put together as we go for what we currently have today. We have plans that we have in place that we'll have in place that we currently have today. All of those are constantly monitored for efficiency and safety. So as we gain those efficiencies and those safeties, we'll be able to hopefully, maybe add a lot more efficient in one way or another, but adhering to safety, of course, but making it efficient.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other questions?
Thank you. Thanks for being
And
here.
Melissa gave you a nice PowerPoint on your mail out or email that you got, so if you want to put that out, take it into your community events that you have or meetings, all that information that you have should print it out. Next, we have baseband service, number 4, the MDTA Chief Operating Officer, Joseph Stigall.
Outstanding. Look at the surprise on the face. First slide.
No.
Oh. Had a long day. It started at just Middleton Bridge this morning. I think this was
Oh.
This is, yeah.
Oh, yeah, it was John Sales.
If you want to do it. No, I yielded forward to my deputy director to John Sales because I think that was the original plan.
Yes.
You're a great introducer, Joe.
Yes. Seriously. I think he was ready to do it. I'm looking forward to it. So we do
John, but it's gonna let you go.
I was tempted there.
Oh, man. So, thank you all for joining us. Almost 2 hours ago. Back in April, I did a little presentation here for BRAG about the summer travel campaign that we do. I'm John Sales, my name. I work in communications office here at the MDTA and deputy director. And I kind of wanted to, talk with you all about, give you a little recap of how that summer campaign efforts worked out for us. Have some stats for you. And this is actually tied in a little bit to the baseband. Because every single thing that we do in our office in terms of gov delivery notifications, whether it's on social media, we're always trying to plug baseband. We want people to go to baseband every time when I'm on call. And there's incident at the Bay Bridge or delays at the Bay Bridge. Put out a tweet, 2.5 mile delays eastbound. Call 1877 baseband. So, as I talked about back in April, our communications office partnered with our operations folks in the Authority Operations Center South here, downstairs, to send out the gov delivery notifications. These are the texts and email alerts that many of you have signed up for. And it's been a great partnership, going fantastic. I think that team and the team I work with get those alerts out almost every hour, whenever there are delays or a traffic incident or inclement weather at the bridge. So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about, how many, subscribers that we have with Gov Delivery. I actually checked that this morning before I came to the meeting. We have nearly 130,000 subscribers to Gov Delivery system. That includes a lot of commuters, residents, also a lot of commercial vehicle operators who want to know what's happening before they hit the road. So I think that's really fantastic. That's grown a lot over the last 2 years.
What is that? Is that emails? Is that emails, tweets and everything?
So what I call it Gov Delivery, it's basically an online platform for us to send out those emails and texts that we get. Basically the ones that say, it's kind of delayed, 2.5 miles, it's going to be a two-way operation, not in effect because I westbound the volumes. So that's what I meant by that. We have 130,000 people signed up for those alerts. And they can choose whether they want to, through text message or email. Over the summer, this is really interesting. We had nearly 520 emails / texts that were sent to 43 million customers. So that was a whole lot of big effort on our end. Where Jack, I heard you earlier talking about how people in your community are really appreciating these.
Makes a
because they
difference.
make a big difference, absolutely. So it's 520 total emails over about a 4-month period to 43 million customers. Over on the social media side, which in our case, we typically use Facebook for a lot of the more fun picture-y stuff. And then we use Twitter for the day-to-day, Bay Bridge operations information. So, it's just like Gov delivery, I guess, in that regard. Inclement weather, two-way standard, that kind of thing that we put out on there. To date, we have more than 41,000 followers on our Twitter account. This summer, our tweets made nearly 3 million impressions. It's pretty awesome. And by impressions, I mean, let's just go with Facebook. I think a lot of us probably use Facebook more than we use Twitter in our personal lives. But with Facebook, if I post a picture, like a holiday Christmas family picture on Facebook, an impression is counted as something that is interactive with. If it shows up on Will's feed, that's one impression. If he likes it, that's another impression. If he shares it with all of his followers on his Facebook page, that's another impression. So they have this calculation in the analytics where they're able to gauge just how many people are seeing our tweets. And so over the summertime, I'm going to say one more time, because I love it, 3 million times people saw our tweets about the Bay Bridge. August was our busiest month. We had an average of 821,000 impressions or views during that. So obviously with the summer traffic. So that's Twitter, social media, and the next I'm going to go talk about our summer travel campaign. This is Spike and Otis, our good friends, our spokespersons for the Bay Bridge and Baseband. And again, this summer travel campaign primarily focuses on our messaging, like go early, stay late was our messaging for this year. We've also talked in the past about staying on 50. Stay on 50 was our message about a couple years ago. This summer, our campaign message reached an audience more than 60 million times through radio, digital, out of home, which is basically billboards, print, and video. Over 25,000 customers interacted with the Bay Bridge digital and video. It's pretty awesome. We also had our street teams down at the boardwalk in Ocean City. This is something that we've started doing in the last couple of years, and we send us a crew of folks to go down to the boardwalk and interact with customers about baseband. We bring lots of tchotchkes. We have beach balls, right? We have these little beach bags, people who want to collect seashells and that kind of thing. So, that was a lot of great interactions there. They interacted with over 6,000 people, educating them on the best times to travel to Bay Bridge. People really love the campaign, and they're always excited to get the promotional items. Again, there were a lot of people that they were interacting with who were asking about the best times to travel, as well as people really how much they really enjoy seeing Spike and Otis each year. So that's a really successful effort for our summer travel campaign. But lastly, I also want to talk to, and this is something that before I became deputy director, that kind of my primary focus at the MDTA, which is dealing with the media. I shouldn't say dealing, it's a partnership. We partner with the media. They need us, we need them, kind of thing. We really like how they spread the word, the good news about all of our big announcements. I think so that's always important to get, our lead spokesman, Will Pines, up in the camera when talking about our important initiatives. So, again, every Friday, we issue a traffic advisory that goes right to the media about the upcoming week's lane closures that are happening due to off-peak or overnight work activities. And then we also post that on our website. And then we also, for our holidays this year, we issued news releases about what to expect when you're traveling the Bay Bridge for Memorial Day weekend or 4th of July or Labor Day. So, and we have best times to travel during those weekends. How many motorists do we expect to travel the bridge for that weekend? So, that's a huge effort. This Labor Day, we actually had our Bay Bridge administrator, Richard Jaramillo, do a little interview with WJZ, down here, right down here at the police building. Captain Arian Warren from the MDT police was there as well, so it was a great success. They kind of tagged me. Richard was talking more about the operation side, and Captain Warren was, I think, public safety, no distracted driving, those type of messages. So, anyway, that's kind of what we wanted to talk about with our summer travel campaign. I think, if people are getting the information about Bay Bridge traffic from so many different avenues now, it's not just with the age of social media, internet. I mean, it's there's more choices for people to get their information than ever before. So, just thought we would kind of give a little presentation about how it went. You guys have any questions?
Keep it up, and,
Something must be working because something's not been backed up. Yeah.
Do you control the overhead message boards too, with the, the delays and the time?
That is done through, I think, the operations.
Yeah, our authority operations.
As well.
Do you ever post up there, when you put, for instance, the one that I see a lot is the one to the east of 424 Davidsville Road, and then, when there's a backup, it'll say 15 miles and 42 minutes. Do you ever alternate between that and call 1-800-BASE-FAN? The only reason I'm saying that is that, there's a lot of people that use the 50 corridor a lot. They come from Virginia and other places that don't know what BASE-FAN is, and if they knew that they had an access where they can make a call and find out, what the deal is, maybe that's just another way to get that out there, because I think it's a great program. I think BASE-FAN is, I don't know how everybody should have it. When I saw the numbers and 118,000 was the high mark and 75,000 low mark, I was really amazed. I thought it would have been much higher. And I just wonder if there's just that many people that don't know they can pick up that phone and call and find out what the situation is or delays. Just a little food for thought.
Absolutely. No, certainly to take into consideration and to balance both Jason and I respectively between my time at SHA and MDTA now. We are very careful, Commissioner Moran, with like what we put on the DMS signs, especially as they relate to federal highway and MTCD manual uniform traffic control device guidelines. And when you start getting phone numbers, it starts to get close to advertising, even though it is situationally aware. We try and balance the safety of encouraging people on the DMS side while they're driving to call a phone number for information.
Not true.
But certainly, point noted and taken, and one more thing that we continuously put in our think tank to alternate those messages. And we're fortunate that through the last years of the development of the chart system, that we get those travel times automated up there, and that's coming in from Waze, Protein, other partnerships that are giving us some determinants of what that travel information.
Yeah, the BASE-FAN, one of the key benefits is planning ahead, right? So that before you leave, once you're on the road and you see the travel time, you kind of know what you're in for, right? But if you can plan ahead and avoid it, that's best. But I'll say I was down at Mako this year in the evening, got to go out on the boardwalk, and I'll send the group a photo. Saw the tram that goes up and down the boardwalk. We prominently had BASE-FAN advertisement, and I looked out of my hotel door and saw the Seaboard going by with our message with BASE-FAN on it. So like everybody in Ocean City should know about BASE-FAN, because if you're on the beach or you're on the boardwalk, it's everywhere. So we have beachfront, the Seaboard goes back up in front and back advertising BASE-FAN.
Yeah, I had a suggestion. I think I entered it last meeting, and I haven't seen it change. But it's very helpful if I am checking the traffic and if there's an accident. For those of us who are local, you make a decision as to whether it's weather related or accident when there's a big backup. Because I can figure out if it's an accident, it'll probably be cleared in a half an hour. So if it's weather, it's not going to clear for a while.
Right.
And that helps us decide whether we're going to go out in it or stay on it. If you're committed to go to Ocean City, you're stuck either way. You got to do it. But for those locals, and you do it every now and then. I don't know why you don't do it all the time, because it's very helpful.
Yeah, you're right. Primarily it's delay, traffic delay information that we want to get out there, but, you know, I think it
If
does.
traffic delays due to an accident or traffic delay
Right.
due to weather, it helps them.
I believe that the text messages are a little bit shorter than the emails. The emails, like, you know, I think the text only has what's in the subject line of the email. Whereas the email has all the information, well, not a whole lot, but you know, it's about, basically we say no two-way operations in effect due to, and whatever the reason is, typically it's inclement weather or westbound volumes.
Yeah, two challenges here. So for baseband, we've gotten a few questions about this. Baseband is like a coded system where there's drop downs. So there's kind of limited fields on what we could specifically tell people is the reason code for why there's a backup. We try to do our best, but sometimes if we say due to an incident and it happens to be, you know, something fell in the road and, you know, we get this debate of, well, why didn't you write the right code exactly what it was? Baseband is kind of narrow in what we can say. As far as GovDel, the messages through email are longer. You had sent me the one question about that, and I tried to provide an example where if you saw the email, it did actually say that it was, you know, the reason for that backup in that case. So.
And John, thank you for that. It's, first of all, the other thing that they do that we've kind of mentioned here at the end was it's proactive messaging. It's like, okay, we know it's going to rain this afternoon. Boom, you see these messages and go out. And you can click on the text, it'll take you to, but you shouldn't be doing that while you're driving. But it's your email and, you know, it can be read to you or what have you. But the proactive,
Absolutely.
the fact that the GovDel has grown to 130,000. I'm not sure if Tamori is watching today, but that morphed from really from the truck traffic.
Right.
Thing. Queen Anne's County was having issues with trucks being during COVID. Trucks were being on the side of the road that, you know, being stranded and everything else because of what was going on. So it morphed from that. And Tamori, you know, we had some really great discussions and it's like, well, we're not really sure we can do this. And Tamori Winfield's like, give me 5 minutes and then check your email. And then poof, he comes up with, you know, a template. And from there, and then he's the one that also sends out generally the alerts that is happening for the weekend at the Bay Bridge. I call him the Bay Bridge for the rifle. But yeah, your proactiveness and then Tamori taking that and running with it and up to 130,000 on that. I know Melissa, when we were in Dorchester, that was one thing I brought up. I was trying to redirect the conversation and we brought that up about the Gov delivery and the truck traffic. So you guys have done a fantastic job. Proactives even over and above, because it's so great to see that, knowing that it may not be raining now, but in 2 hours, you know, expect no two-way traffic. That's hitting home. Great work.
I'll be sure to relay that to Tamori.
Somebody's watching tomorrow. You
You know, he gets up at what? We're going to work at 4 o'clock.
Oh, you should be up there.
Right, making sleep, right? That's right.
Thank you for the information.
All right, thank you.
Actually, Jack, well, it's not on our agenda, but it's the bridge run. Richard, could you give us like a heads up of what's new data?
Yeah, absolutely.
That you have, how many participants and all that? Sure. Sorry, kept you on board there.
Oh, no, that's fine.
I had a meeting the other day to give you some news.
Yeah, no problem at all. So I'll just give you a brief update. We met again, it was on the Monday, Tuesday of this week. And to date, we have 14,600 participants that are registered for the Bay Bridge Run.
Or shooting for.
And they're shooting for the max that they'll cap is at 16,000. So we are very close. They are receiving up to 500 entries per week. So we should reach that really soon if we stay on average with that.
Post-COVID.
I'm sorry.
Post-COVID.
Right. Well, and here's the other thing that it was an interesting comment that they made is that this run in particular is garnishing a lot of participants, while others, like even the Boston Marathon, are falling behind and nationwide are not really keeping up with the numbers. They're not regaining back from COVID, but this one, for some reason, is just really picking up fast. And,
It's your facility.
well, that's what I said.
Yeah.
So
So that's it in a nutshell, 14.6 to date, and 16,000 max, 500 entries per week. We should be reaching that within weeks, that max capacity. Again, same thing, we will be going on at 7 AM with disabled to every 15 minutes in waves. And about 9:30 AM will be our last wave that'll take off. Anticipate having that last runner hit off about the eastbound bridge around about 12:30, somewhere around there. And so correct. And the event will be held on Sunday, November 13th.
I just want to thank the counties, both Anne Arundel and Queen County, for their leadership in supporting the event. It's, certainly, we understand the economic importance to the counties, but bringing in all these folks, 16,000 people, they're going to go into the counties and spend money. So stay in the counties and spend money in the counties. And it's a good initiative. Thanks for your leadership.
And a lot of resources coming from each of the counties in regards to emergency services and police and all. So we really appreciate it.
Thanks for that. Next is our letter to the governor. Members should receive a draft copy of it. And I'll open the floor for discussion. Anybody have any changes to the letter? This is a pretty good. Any suggestions or changes they want to make? A motion to accept the letter, goes to the governor. Second. Are all in favor? Three. Read that out. Next, we'll open the floor on comments from members from the public. Please wait for your call time to speak on this up before presenting your comment. Do you have anybody?
No registered.
Registered, we'll move on. Next is our next meeting is going to take place on Wednesday, January the 4th, 2023 at 6 PM. Right here, hopefully. Each on. Now, please have a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Second. All in favor? Thank you all for coming on. Have a good holiday. Unfortunately, we're talking about them already, but.